Today, we're going to dive into something pretty profound. We're unpacking a powerful, structured argument about life, death, and what might come next. And it's all found inside a single chapter of the Quran called An-nazia'at. We're going to see how it builds its case using logic, a bit of history, and a direct challenge to look inward.
So let's start with a huge question, one that's at the heart of our existence, really. Is death just a random biological event, the end of the line? Or is it part of a much bigger, more intricate design? Well, this chapter, An-nazia'at, it kicks off with a very clear point of view on this.
The whole argument starts by setting up its foundational premise, and it's this: life and death are not chaotic. Nope, they're presented as events that are managed by a divine power carried out with absolute precision.
Now, the way the chapter opens is just fascinating. It doesn't start with a story or a command. It starts with a series of oaths sworn by angels. And these aren't just any angels. They have specific jobs related to the moment of death. Some are described as pulling souls out forcefully, say from those who disbelieved, while others gently draw souls out from believers. You get this image of a celestial, organized force, meticulously carrying out their orders.
So right from the get-go, these opening lines establish a system. It's making the point that from the very second someone dies, there's an organized, disciplined process underway. This whole thing frames the conversation around divine authority, not just random chance.
Okay, so from that kind of abstract idea of divine order, the argument pivots. It brings us to a very concrete, historical example, a case study, really, of what happens when a person denies that order.
The text brings up the famous story of Musa, that's Moses, and the Pharaoh of Egypt, and is presented in these four clear stages. First, a divine message is sent. Second, an invitation is delivered. Third, that invitation is met with pure arrogance and rejection. And finally, there's a consequence, one that's meant to be a lesson for everyone, for all time.
And this is the invitation. It's not framed as a threat, you'll notice. It's an offer of guidance and spiritual cleansing. It's a call to be humble and to recognize that there's an authority higher than yourself.
And boom, this was Pharaoh's response. You can't get more defiant than that, right? It's a total rejection of that divine order we talked about at the beginning. He doesn't just say no to the message, he claims that divine status for himself.
The story ends with Pharaoh's downfall, of course, and it's presented as the natural outcome for anyone who, no matter how much earthly power they have, denies the ultimate source of that power. It's a pretty stark warning against arrogance.
So, after grounding the argument in history, the text shifts gears again. This time, it moves to an appeal to our own logic, to what we can see in the world around us. It goes from believe this because of a story to believe this because it just makes sense.
And here it is. This is the central question it poses to us. It's such a powerful way to frame it, designed to completely shift our perspective. It's asking us, you and me, to think about our own complexity versus the mind-boggling scale and complexity of the entire cosmos. To make its point, the text lists some amazing things from the natural world. The sky above us, seemingly held up by nothing, the perfect predictable cycle of day and night, the stability of the earth beneath our feet, and the incredible systems that give us water, food, and everything we need to live. These are presented like evidence in a case for an immense creative power.
The logic here is pretty straightforward, isn't it? If a creator could bring into existence something as vast and intricate as the entire universe, then recreating a single human being after death would be, well, a piece of cake in comparison. The argument is that to deny resurrection is to ignore all the evidence of creation that's staring you in the face.
So, with the historical and logical arguments on the table, the focus suddenly becomes deeply personal. It's not about abstract ideas anymore. It's about you, your choices, and where they lead.
This slide just lays out the two paths so clearly. On one side, you've got the rebellious person. What defines them? They prefer this worldly life, they cross the lines God has set, and they don't think about accountability. The outcome for them is described as hellfire. And on the other side, you have those who lived with an awareness of God, who held themselves back from their own base desires, and their outcome is paradise, or Jannah.
And this gets to a really key idea in the text. The real battle, the most important struggle, isn't for money or power out in the world. It's the struggle inside, the battle to control your own desires, your own ego. Success, from this point of view, is all about self-control and being conscious of a higher purpose.
So the argument wraps up by tackling one of the most common questions people have about all of this, about the Day of Judgment. But it does something really clever. It completely reframes the question itself.
This is the question people always ask, right? When? When is it all going to happen? Give me a date for the end of the world.
The response in the text is definitive. It basically says that's above your pay grade. The knowledge of when belongs to God alone. The job of the messenger and the message itself isn't to give you a schedule. It's to serve as a warning, a reminder. The focus is immediately shifted from when to what, as in, what are you doing to get ready?
And to hammer home this urgency, the chapter leaves us with this powerful final image. It says that on that day, our entire life here on earth, it's going to feel impossibly short, like it was just one evening, or the morning that came after. It just shrinks our whole worldly timeline down to almost nothing, making the now feel incredibly important. And that brings us to the final provocative thought. The entire argument we just walked through, from the angels at the moment of death, to the story of Pharaoh, to the logic of creation, it all funnels down to this single personal question. It flips the whole explainer back on us, suggesting that the most important question isn't about some cosmic timeline, but about our own state of readiness. Right here, right now,